Hello, everyone, and welcome to Red Panda Talks, where today we're going to be doing an interview with Ash Millman, who is a presenter at PlayStation Access. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so my first question that I have for you is what first got you interested in pursuing your current career path?
I think I've just always been interested and drawn to media. Like, I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but like, I love films, I love games. They're such a massive part of my life and always have been. And being able to kind of incorporate that into my work and my job was a bit of a no-brainer for me, I think. I was drawn to it, especially, I think, is what kind of made it happen was at school. I always knew that I liked writing and that I enjoyed writing, but I was never sure how to apply that until we started doing like film studies and doing that sort of thing. And then knowing that I could study that at university and go kind of down a more critical route, I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is what I want to do. And then finding out that you can do that about games as well was like
Yeah,
mind blowing. I was like, oh my god, I can talk about games too. So it just kind of all fell into place, really, but was always part of stuff that I love doing anyway.
nice. And what was sort of your first step in moving from the just a passion to transforming it into your career?
Oh, it was so my job at the moment is like games presenting, but previously it was films and games, and it was working for my student magazine at university. Um, I started volunteering like articles and reviews for different things. I'm pretty sure my first ever like volunteer piece was about The Witcher 3, which is
Oh,
just
wow.
just hit me out of nowhere.
That's one heck of
I
one to
think it was
start with.
I know. It was like a tiny little, like 100 words, like in a roundup about The Witcher. I'm sure it was. Um, and that it kind of went snowballed from there. I was super duper shy about doing it and starting on this student magazine, right? My boyfriend at the time said, "Oh, I think I'm going to start writing for The Edge, which is the magazine."
Yeah.
And I got really competitive, and I was like, "Not before me, you won't." That's what made me do it. Is I was like, "I'm gonna get one in before he will," and then I really liked it, so I carried on.
It's a great way to start into it.
I know. Oh, it's because we both spoke about it loads. We were like, oh, maybe we will, maybe we will. And then when he expressed any interest, I was like, I will, I will.
So, this question is probably one that you've gotten a lot, but what is your favorite aspect of horror? Because you've delved into it a lot in videos on like access and what culture, so I want to know a little bit what is it that draws you to that genre specifically?
Man, it's simultaneously like the biggest question and the simplest question because it's like, what doesn't draw me in? I think it's fascinating. I think horror it's something I've grown up with my dad loving, so I've had that kind of influence, and my mom as well, just in different aspects, both films and books from each parent respectively. And seeing it through that lens growing up has given me that nostalgic soft spot for it. But I just think it's so fascinating. I think of every genre, there's always something interesting happening in horror, and it's so experimental. It's where directors and game makers and developers, all that sort of thing, go to when they want to make something interesting. Like there's no rules. And if there are rules, breaking them is part of the concept. It's all about making someone feel something in the most visceral, boiled down way. And yeah, I just think it's so cool. Like, and I love monsters. I love thinking about how people work and how they tick. And I don't think anything is quite as reflective of that as horror. It is the massively reflective state of what human psyche is at any time that it's put out. Like you'll look at something from the 50s and it'll be vastly different and vastly scarier in a different way to something that's been released last year,
Yeah.
because it is this kind of cultural consciousness of what people are thinking, what they're scared of, what they're worried about, what they want their future to be, what new technology is coming in and making them feel self-conscious. Oh god, it goes on and on. I just think it's so cool.
That's awesome. I've never delved into that genre, really. So I was curious what your perspective on it was.
Yeah, of course. Oh God, I think everybody should watch some horror. And I think everybody likes horror in their own capacity. And if they're like, oh, maybe I'm not a horror fan, there's something out there that'll draw you to it. I've met so many, I'm not really a horror fans who love puzzles or who love kind of morbid things or like true crime because it's kind of
Mm,
this big
yeah.
mystery to go into. And there's different things that'll draw you to it in all these different threads. It is part of all of us, everybody's scared of something, so being able to tap into that and weaponize it is just delicious.
With your work, a lot of what it boils down to is representing games and what you're talking about in the most positive way possible. And there are certain ways that channels go about that. But how do you keep your unique style and your personality in your work while also staying with what wherever you're working at, what their spin on it is?
I think it's always a case of genuinely liking something, and if you don't genuinely like it, you don't cover it. Is kind of the main aspect of my job at the moment. Like, if I don't have anything nice to say, I'm not going to say it. It's what it boils down
Yeah,
to. But I do also believe that you can say good positive things about something without being personally invested as well. Like there's lots of stuff about say like rom-coms and reality TV that like I love watching those, but I they're not always to my taste, if you know what I mean. Like there's
yeah,
some of them are great, some of them aren't to my taste. That doesn't mean that I'm going to say they're all rubbish and that nobody else should be able to tap into them, like online multiplayer shooters where it's all about like competing for battle royale stuff doesn't appeal to me really at all. But I'm never going to like yuck someone's yum about it, because there is something positive to be drawn from that in an objective point of view, which you can tap into. And I think that's just about kind of journalistic instinct, for lack of a better for lack of a better phrase, that you've got to hone and attach your it's you both have to attach yourself to it and separate yourself from it. Like, that has to be your voice, it has to be your opinion, and it has to be something that you will firmly back. But that doesn't mean that everything you say has to be through your lens only. You're allowed to have broader vision and put different things on it. It's like when you look at a film or a game and you can put all these different theories of thought over it. Like you can say, oh, here's it from a feminist perspective, here's it from a postmodern perspective, here's it from a communist perspective, I don't know. And
yeah.
pull out all those parts of it that appeal to that point of view. Like you can read those and you can talk about them and you can theorize about them, and that's still you and your voice. Even if you don't think it's the best thing in the world, you can find the positivity in it from those angles as well. I just think it's nice to be positive, like people work hard on this stuff. Nobody's just throwing something out because they don't care. Like everybody has to go into this with a bit of a dream and a vision. So being able to respect that and celebrate the parts of it that really hit is important.
Yeah, I love that going into it always with that positive style. I love that.
Yeah. It's a very fortunate position to be in.
When you are writing scripts for videos, I'm sure every now and again you'll get writer's block. How do you personally get through that hurdle?
Man, like the bottom line of it is that like the rough part is that it's my job, so I have to.
Yeah.
Um, so that like it's like, oh, I'm getting paid to do this. Like I've got to get power through, but obviously that's not very helpful, and I don't think that probably does justice to the steps that I take to get through it as well. So I get writer's block a lot, or I find writing like wading through treacle. Like it's happening, but it's going slow and it's kind of laborious to do. And the most important part ever that I've been taught and that I've taught myself is just get something down. It doesn't matter if it's rubbish. The writer's block that I get is very much I want it to be perfect, I want it to be the right thing. How can I say it in this like especially poignant, salient way? And it doesn't matter as long as something's on the page, I can come back to it and edit it and make it beautiful afterwards. But you're never going to be able to move past a point where you can't write if you don't just slap something down. And that's the really stupid key to it, is just write something rubbish, write something full of swears, or stuff that you can't actually use in a piece of content, and come back to it when your brain's a bit fresher. Research, watch some videos, go easy on yourself, look into a topic and really burrow into it and just have fun with it, and then come back and write something silly and move on. And if you've really got to do it fast, go into deadline mode where you're like, you've got that university pressure of like, okay, it's 1 a.m. and the deadline's in the morning. I've got to get something done, otherwise this that the other, and that adrenaline pushes you through as well. That's only for me personally, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but just the art of just writing some crap down. It's
Yeah.
underrated.
Yeah. So for you, what do you feel is the most rewarding part of your job?
I think it's just something I really love doing. I think the most rewarding part of my job is that I genuinely have always loved games. I've always loved films. I've always loved all these things that tie into what I get to talk about every day. Like I go home from work and then I play a game that I love, and then I come back in the next day and get to write about it or talk about it or chat to people about all my favorite parts of it. Like that's really special. Like it's just this positive community building role um that I am so fortunate to be able to do. And like I do pinch myself a bit when I'm like, oh my god, you get to do this for a job. I've done so many things that I didn't like doing in loads of different other roles, which was important to build a bit of character, and kind of know what I didn't want to do to know what I did want to do. And yeah, it's tough because I just think the whole thing is rewarding, and the whole thing is really enjoyable. I think being able to have a community through a channel and be able to celebrate things that people really enjoy and have all this nostalgia and special place for in their hearts is fantastic, and it's so joyous. It's like being a kid 24/7. It's great.
That's a great way to kind of describe it because whenever I'm doing that, like video editing and stuff like that, I definitely feel that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And my final thing to kind of wrap us up here is more open-ended for you. Do you have any advice for those wanting to go into video journalism about whether that be games, movies, whatever?
My main advice is just do it. Like you're good enough, and if you're not, you will be. But you're never going to get there unless you just start doing it. Don't be afraid to be rubbish. Don't be afraid to not know what you're talking about. Everybody starts somewhere. Like some of my early stuff that I've read recently, I've been like, oh my god, what was I on? Because it's just weird opinions, and it's like run on sentences with no sense of punctuation. It's weird. And my first camera pieces were even weirder than that. I didn't know to look down the lens, so I was always looking at the little preview box,
Mm.
and it made for some very interesting eye positions. Didn't look right at all. But I share all that because it's so important to just be easy with yourself, be kind to yourself, and do it. That's the only thing that will help, is just doing it. Also, reach out to people and ask people that you admire what's up, what they're doing, how they got what they're doing, how did they get into their career? Is there anything that can give you advice with? Because nine times out of ten they will respond. Like I get people message me, and I'm so happy to talk about any of this. Like it's what I'm here for, just to help people get into it as well. Like it's such a great career and a great position to be in, and such a unique role that's kind of grown out of new media that's just fascinating to me, and that so many people have access to it. And there is a place for everyone. And there's this saying where like, oh, everybody's a critic, but everybody is a critic because everybody has a unique point of view and an opinion on something that makes sense and makes their voice matter. So if you want to do it, just do it and come back and refine after. It's like the writer's block thing. Putting things out is more important than putting the perfect things out, at least to begin with. And then, if you've got something really special, or if you want it to be perfect, if you really want to put out only the best before you put anything out there at all, do that, but still put it out, because you'll find an excuse not to at the last minute and you want to refine it. So just hear me shouting in the background going, do it, post it. And that's my main that's my main advice. Also read, watch films, play games, make yourself super literate in whatever you want to talk about, because the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, the more voice you have in any of this sort of thing. Even if that is, yeah, I like that, yeah, I've seen that, yeah, I've watched that. It matters and it's important. And you can't talk about something with authority if you don't at least have, some sort of grounding opinion in it. So read, post by post, go, go, go.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk and answer these.
Not at all. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry, I've just been like
No
spewing out
worries.
words.
Thank you all so much for watching. If you like the content, then be sure to subscribe to the channel to see even more of my content, and click the notification bell so you never miss a video and a chance to learn about the media industry. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.